What is up? Welcome to DFS and Chill, Club Fantasy's weekly DFS show. We are here. It's week 3 in the NFL. Week 2 was filled with a ton of injuries, but that's one of the many great things about DFS. You don't have to play those hurt guys. We get to pick a whole new slate of guys. With me this week, as always, my co-host, my DFS captain, Kyra Wiaterowski. How are you, Kyra?
I'm doing great, Ryan, as always. Steven, we're happy to have you on here. If anybody wants to follow him on Twitter, it's FFProfessorST3. See it there right below his beautiful picture. So we have a game to talk about tonight. Right before we get into our Sunday slate. It is a game of sorts. I know it's not the most thrilling. There are some exciting skill position players over there for the Panthers. We have a good show for you here tonight.
Absolutely. Steven, first time on the show. You and I met at the wonderful Fantasy Football Expo in Canton. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure to meet you in Canton. And actually, we met at the first one.
29.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we met the first one, and then we really connected this time around. So, yeah, pleasure to be on. And, I'm the host of the Hot Take podcast. You can find me, like they said, at my Twitter handle below. And I've also am writing for guillotineleagues.com for my third straight year doing ranking defenses. So your defense/special teams. I rank 15 of those every week for you with a little explanation. And I also have a DFS article every week on riseorfall.com.
That's awesome. A man after my own heart. I got my cut in this industry writing defense and special teams articles for the fantasy footballers. So we're of the same ilk there. This is typically a main slate show, but it's Thursday. There's a game tonight. We want to help make you some money. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Carolina at Houston matchup. I'm going to start with where I always start in these type of matchups. You have to pick a captain. Kyra, who's your captain with this game tonight?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not gonna shock the world with this one. I'm gonna pick the pretty much the obvious. I like the player that I think is gonna score the most points. That's who I want my captain to be. Pretty obvious to me. It's gonna be Christian McCaffrey. Not much needed to be said there. He averages usually over 25 points a fantasy game. He's probably going to be the highest scoring player on the slate. Not much to say, guys. It's Christian McCaffrey for me.
I like it. Steven, I love your pick. We've already kind of alluded to this. Walk me through your captain's pick for the evening.
Yeah, no, it would have been easy for me to pick Christian McCaffrey, but Kyra already picked it, so I had to pick someone else.
Yeah, I get on them very early, just so anybody for future reference, you need to hurry up and pick your
Yeah, well, and then it's like, okay, well, is it going to be DJ Moore? Well, hey, Robbie could have a big play, and then, I love Terrace Marshall. Maybe he's a sleeper in that captain spot.
Right.
But I wanted to get all of these players. And then the way you can do that is putting a cheap play in there that you think can, if you're just looking at a narrative from a narrative perspective, we have Davis Mills in his first game on a Thursday night. Thursday nights, typically, I like to target anyway, put in a defense there. Yeah. This defense, they have 10 sacks. They lead the league. They blitz on 33% of snaps. They're coming after the quarterback. They're up there in pretty much every metric when it comes to blitzing the quarterback. If they get sacks, that leads to turnovers, and then that leads to touchdowns. So, I think it's a kind of a dart throw situation, but the narrative could be put in your captain. If you're not going to put in your captain, I still recommend playing him.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Sometimes you got to be different on these slates. So we've talked about that for 3 straight weeks now, and starting a defense in your captain seat is definitely different. Let's talk about a little bit what we're going to call chalk dust, and that's a high dollar player who might end up burning you this week. Steven, I'm going to start with you. I'm big on Sam Darnold this week, but you think it might not play out so well?
Yeah, I like Sam Darnold a lot. He's my QB2 in my main home league, so I'm going to be rooting for him tonight. But if Kyra's right, and most people are right, it's a Christian McCaffrey game. I can easily see, and then we're talking about the defense for the Panthers.
Yeah.
Maybe Sam Darnold throws for 220 yards and maybe just 1 touchdown. And then in that case, maybe the other players, the other skill position players would have been nice. You're going to get a lot of garbage time potentially from, a guy I'm going to talk about later. Also, Brandon Cooks. I mean, these guys, you want to kind of get in there because you can see a perceived volume. So maybe you save on the quarterback. I know it's unconventional, but again, like you said, you have to be, especially in a showdown.
Yeah, and I mean, paying up for Sam Darnold a year ago sounds like sacrilege. So telling someone not to do it isn't necessarily bad advice.
I'm playing Darnold, but I'm saying I'm also not playing Darnold just to kind of differentiate.
Yep, got to keep those rosters different. Kyra, I think you're looking at the other side of the field for who you're avoiding tonight.
Yeah, no, I am. I just want to go off of what he just said, you do have to differentiate yourself from the field, because a lot of these skill players are going to be the same in all these lineups because everyone wants to avoid the Texans. You're not really sure. You pretty much know who's going to do well in this game. So I totally understand leaving Sam Darnold out. I am going to be on the opposite side of that and say that I'm leaving out Davis Mills just because I have to pick somebody here. So there's not a lot of top dollar players other than the Texans player that I'd like to keep out. I know he's a very unfamiliar name to a lot of people. He was a 3rd round draft pick for the Texans. He's been just plagued with injuries his whole career. He hasn't played a ton of games. I think he played 13 games in college. He's not a very, very experienced player, let alone at the NFL level. So,
and then again on a short week.
On a short week preparing for this game against, like we said earlier, Carolina defense, who has been pretty damn good so far. And I don't think it's just because they played weak offenses, or maybe that it is, but I don't think the Texans really differentiate themselves from the other weak offenses in the Saints and the Jets that they've played.
I like it.
So, I mean, they have pretty similar weaknesses. They have rookies that are inexperienced. They just don't have any strong skill position players. Pretty much the same scenario for each team. So the last 2 weeks, Zach Wilson, he finished over our week 1 when they played the Texans.
Yeah.
He finished as QB 19. Jameis Winston, he finished as the QB 27. I could see a case where Davis Mills, no better than those two guys. If anything, he's substantially worse. He's going to have himself a hard night.
Well, we're going to keep the differentiation train going just to make that word even harder for you to say.
Oh my God, I hate it.
Low dollar players are where you're going to make your lineups different. Kyra, what low dollar player would you be looking at to throw in this game?
I'd be looking to throw in actually Chris Conley. I know we weren't crazy about Texans players, but I mean, I believe he's only $1,400 on DraftKings. Yeah, I mean, he's dirt cheap. He's low. So you got to round out those lineups. You're going to have all those high price players on the Panthers. May as well throw in a guy like him who's been seeing a significant increase in snaps. Nico Collins is out. If it's not Brandon Cooks, I don't really know that's going to be Jordan Atkins. I think we'll see a little more Chris Conley, if anybody.
I like it. And Steven, who would you throw in for a little cheap, low dollar throw in at the end?
I'll throw in David Johnson. His snap percentage increased last week when the Texans were down. He went from, I think it was like 20% to 43% of snaps because he is the 3rd down back. So he might get like 4-5 receptions in this game. So I could see that happening.
I was going to say, and it seems like I'd thrown this out on our Wednesday show. It seems like there were talks in the preseason about him maybe playing slot wide receiver, and that could be something you see him do in this game, sheerly out of necessity. So.
That's right. Yeah, they're down like a few receivers right now. Nico Collins on IR. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, we're going to jump off of the Thursday game. This is a main slate show. How we break down the main slate is by position, very similar to what we just did for the Thursday game. So we're going to start with quarterback, and we're going to start with the negative. We're going to start with a high dollar quarterback who could end up burning you this week. Kyra, go ahead and give me your breakdown. Yeah,
so now I am going to shock the world a little bit with my first pick here, and it's going to be somebody that's been really doing well for you to start the season here, and that's going to be Tom Brady. And listen, what Tom Brady's doing at his age is nothing short of amazing, but he just started his season with 2 of the best defensive matchups he possibly could have had with Dallas and Atlanta. Brady's been an absolute touchdown machine. He's put up 4 touchdowns in week 1, 5 touchdowns in week 2. That's going to be a hard thing to sustain every single week, week in and week out, especially against the Los Angeles Rams. What's the thing that makes Tom Brady crumble? Where do we see his kryptonite? What is that? It's going to be pressure. So the one guy that is going to be all over Tom Brady is Aaron Donald. I could see him throwing Tom Brady a fit. I could see him having a little bit harder of a time just getting to move the ball compared to what he has been able to do on against defenses like Atlanta and Dallas. I think that Brady has all of his worst games under distress. Antonio Brown is out for this one. He's down a skill position player. He might come down to earth a little bit this week, despite as immortal as he seems.
Absolutely. And Chris, sorry, just typed to a Chris in the chat. Steven, who would you avoid at quarterback this week? And maybe not necessarily avoid, but who could end up burning somebody?
Yeah, like I said, with these guys that we're talking about, like you definitely should have some exposure, but if you're going to play more of one person, I don't think it should be Josh Allen. I would rather pay up for Russell Wilson. I'd rather pay up for Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Kyler, all of those guys. I just think that we've seen the Bills actually run the ball a little bit more. If Taylor Heineke, if he can't keep up with Josh Allen, there's not going to be a big need for him to throw the ball around a lot. And even if he gives you like 18, 20 fantasy points, that still kind of burns you.
I think we might have missed the announcement today. Taylor Heineke signed with Bud Light. I think he's Taylor Bud Lightekey now.
Wow, he beat Heineken to the
There you go. Enough with this negative. Steve, give me your favorite play at quarterback of the week. And I heard you already mention him with the Josh Allen take. So
yeah, that's right. It's Russell Wilson. The Vikings have gotten destroyed by quarterbacks so far. They've gotten destroyed by wide receivers. I see no way they can contain DK and Tyler Lockett. This team's been on fire. The schedule is just lined up for Seattle. So keep riding it. This is going to be a high-scoring game. The Vikings just haven't proven that they can stop the pass going back to last year.
That's perfect analysis, and that's the Vikings season thus far in a nutshell. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, at least on the Seattle side. Kyra, how about your favorite quarterback?
Yeah, so my favorite quarterback on the week is going to be playing opposite of Tom Brady, and that's going to be Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's been playing absolutely phenomenal, and he's getting it done against defenses that are as good as Chicago and Indy. Tampa Bay's one weakness is their secondary. I mean, I think that people think of the Buccaneers as this big tyrant of a defense, but they stop the run. That's they've done that since last year. They did the year before. That's their strong point. The way you beat Tampa is through the air. I mean, Stafford's finally getting to showcase how good he is just by being out of Detroit. He's got all these great skill position players now. We're finally seeing his ceiling, you know. You just can't run on them. So I think
with Darrell Henderson out, there might not be a lot of choice.
With a banged up Henderson, you should expect to have a heavy pass game, especially if Tom is immortal and putting up the touchdowns that I said that he wouldn't do. I think that Sean McVay has been pass heavy in the past against Tampa. He's going to continue that this week. I don't see anything changing in that game plan. I like Matthew Stafford a lot this week at a decent price. He's only 6,400 on DraftKings. That's mid sixes. I mean, for a shootout possibility, I'll be all over that.
Absolutely. And then our last segment of the position, we stole right from Kyra's awesome article that comes out every Saturday. We call it the Deep Sea Dive. It's your favorite low dollar play. Kyra, you might have picked the player that Twitter is talking the most about right now. Walk me through Justin Fields as your favorite low dollar player.
Of course. He's a trendy topic. He's been a trendy topic all off season long, and we're finally getting to showcase Justin Fields in his first start. I say it all the time. You strike fantasy gold when you find a quarterback at value who has rushing upside. I bang that drum for Jalen Hurts all the time. I think we have a similar player in Justin Fields who could be a better passer, which probably is a better passer. I'm just, a little biased. I don't want to say it out loud on, you can't record it and forever. It's permanent. He gives you a safe floor with that rushing ability. I mean, we saw, I don't mean to talk about him, but Jalen Hurts last week, he didn't even throw for a touchdown and he still was able to give us 20 points. I think that Justin Fields is a good, comparable place when we're thinking of that. He's only $5,200 on DraftKings. That's as bottom of the barrel as it gets, you know. I know that the matchup at Cleveland isn't juicy, but he's still a great punt option at that rate. 10 rushing attempts last week on 41 snaps, gets a full week to prepare as a starter. He could just be a really great value, and I think his floor is pretty safe.
Yeah, really small sample size, but Tyrod Taylor looked good against that Browns defense, and you're looking at a similar play style there. And I don't think many people would argue that Fields is better than Tyrod Taylor. So the Browns might be able to be beat by rushing quarterbacks. We don't know for sure, but it's something worth looking at. And then we got another rookie quarterback as Steven's deep sea dive. Who do we got there, Steven?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick about Fields. This could be the cheapest we see Fields all season. Like, if he has a great game, all of a sudden he's like 6,300 next week.
That's actually an excellent point to hit on, even with your guy. And that's something we talked a lot about in week one is these rookies, they kind of break the system for those first couple of weeks because they don't know where to price them. So that's a great point, Steven.
Yeah, that's right. And then Trevor Lawrence at 5,500, not too much higher. And then he's going to have to keep up with Kyler. Actually, Jacksonville's up there in pace of play with Arizona. So you got the two fastest teams playing each other. He's going to have to pass a lot. He's got good skill position players. So I like Trevor Lawrence this week against Arizona.
Perfect. Yeah. When you get those games against Arizona's secondary is not great.
No.
So there's a lot of passing that can happen in that game. We're going to jump over to running back. Same as the previous segment, just different position. So which high dollar running back could burn you this week? Steven, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, I'm going with Nick Chubb. I mean, it pains me to say that, but you take away receptions in the DraftKings situation, full PPR, FanDuel, half point. This week, I think they're going to use Kareem Hunt. We saw him used last week in a game that they could potentially be up in. Kareem Hunt got a lot of run. And, I loved Nick Chubb going into draft season. But one thing with this longer season, in times when they can just minimize his work, they will. And they're the first to do so because they have such a good backup in Kareem Hunt that they're not going to worry about, this guy making a mistake. So it could be a case where they're up in this game, a defensive kind of game. And then all of a sudden, Nick Chubb isn't playing much in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and last week they even got rookie Demetric Felton involved in the game, and so in a game where if it could end up being a blowout, you could see them wanting to get the rookies into the game there too.
And one quick thing on Hunt, with Jarvis out, I think Hunt is going to be used more in the passing game.
Seems very likely at this point. And then Odell Beckham won't even confirm that he's playing at this point. Kyra, you have another high dollar running back that could give some people some headaches this week.
Yeah, my chalk burn this week is definitely going to be Alvin Kamara. I still feel the burn of last week, I believe. I played him in a lot of DFS lineups, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But, are we worried about Alvin Kamara at this point? I mean, I know that last week was criminally bad, and I'm not necessarily worried, but this week I kind of can be. I mean, Bill Belichick's game plan is always to take away your best offensive skill player in all his matchups. Oh, yeah, that's why he was that's why probably Zach Wilson was seeing ghosts last week. Corey Davis was a ghost because Bill Belichick made him one. Yeah. And he could easily do that same thing to Alvin Kamara. It's no mystery that Kamara is their best skill position player. I could see New England's focus on eliminating him from the game and not being worth paying up for. I mean, he's 8,200 on DraftKings, 8,000 on FanDuel, RB3 on both of those platforms. There's either better options for a cheaper price, or if you're going to pay up that high, you may as well take the safer options in Cook or Henry at this point.
Yep, I'm going to go off script just real quick. So I agree, Belichick takes away the best weapon. Do either one of you have any faith in the Marquez Callaway breakout finally happening?
I mean, I had faith, but not anymore. I loved how he looked out there in preseason, but, I think maybe I was just itching for football, and that was the most excitement I got in a while. And I settled for it. There could be a chance. I mean, if they can't put the ball in Kamara's hands, then they have to put it in somebody. So, who's it going to be? Maybe Marquez Callaway does take advantage of that opportunity.
Steven?
Yeah, I think Winston likes to spread it around. I don't know if he necessarily needs to hyper-target one player. If he does, it should be Kamara. So, I don't know. I think it's I dropped him in places this week. That shows you my belief in him right now.
There you go. All right, enough of the bad talk. Let's talk about your favorite running back. Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, this week and honestly every week so far, it's been Chase Edmonds. I mean, week one, he was at 4,600 or something on DraftKings. I said, kind of similar to Justin Fields. This is the cheapest he's going to be. And then you see the increase, but he's still at 5,700 on DraftKings. He's getting this great foundation with the receptions. His yards per carry is great right now, super efficient. We said the pace of play is up there for the Cardinals, and they're playing the Jaguars. You got to play Chase Edmonds this week because, again, his price might explode if he has an explosive game. All he needs is one touchdown with the foundation he has, and then all of a sudden he's scratching the surface of RB1.
Yeah, his receptions give him that floor. Kyra, I think both of your next two players might make the internet explode because they are not very popular players right now. Let's start with your favorite play, and then we'll jump down to your deep sea dive.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong about that. My favorite play of the week, and I have actually seen a couple people talk about him, so maybe I won't break the internet with him.
There you go.
But, I am willing to forgive Saquon Barkley for the slow start.
And for being a Giant.
Yeah, I know. Listen, we are Penn State fan, so
okay, so it makes up for it. I get it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I have high hopes for Barkley, and I think he's a better player than what's happening. I mean, he's returning from an ACL tear. He's had two tough matchups. One of them fell on a short week where he only had 3 days to rest. But now we see that he gets 10 days to rest now. This is a decent amount of time for Barkley coming back from that injury. We saw his snap count go from 48% in week 1 to 84% in week 2. And I'm sure we'll see it just go up even more in week 3. We got a taste or a tease of his explosiveness that he still has last week when he had the 41 41-yard run. Barkley's just super talented. It's something that we easily forget when we haven't seen a player play for a while. We did that with Cortland Sutton. We do that with people all the time. Like, we just have this recency bias problem. And this week he gets a great matchup versus Atlanta. They're giving up the 12th most points to running back this year. I mean, granted, one of those weeks was against Tampa, who hates using their running back. Yeah. So, like,
there's a lot of weird points per game skews right now in the NFL.
We just have this small sample size that we kind of have to go off of, and things will get more accurate as we go on here. But this is Saquon Barkley, guys. I mean, he's $6,500 on DraftKings in a good matchup.
Yep.
I feel good about it. There's not a ton of great running back matchups this week. They're all a little bit tough. So I like the pay down option at somebody with the talent level of Saquon Barkley for that price.
I see. And you can just keep diving down into your deep sea dive, because this guy has fantasy football Twitter right now on whether he's just a full out bust. I personally agree with you. I think this might be a breakout week. I'm actually going to ask Steven's opinion after you're done, but go ahead and talk to me about.
Yeah, of course. He's definitely the topic of conversation this week, because we're pissed. This is the second year in a row we're pissed about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know his name leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, and if he wasn't priced so low on DraftKings, I probably wouldn't be in on this either. It's it's a full well. We know it. This is a risky play. Make no mistake about it. It almost feels like a trap how cheap that he's put at. You put him down at the bottom at $4,800. This is the RB1 on the Chiefs, and I know that's what we say all the time in regards to Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, why is he not doing better? He's the RB1 on the Chiefs offense, But if there is a softer spot that the Chargers defense does have, it's against the run. They've been giving up. They gave up a total of 324 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks, splitting a rushing touchdown each week as well. They also allow 5.6 rushing yards per attempt. That's highest in the league. If I'm going to take a shot there, we want to pay down at the position. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not necessarily a safe option. He's risky, but he could, high risk, high reward is kind of how I see it. I'll take the shot on the team surefire RB1 on the Chiefs and what could be a really high over under this week. So,
yes, Steven, before we jump into your deep sea dive, where do you fall on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now? Are you full panic, time to get rid of him? Do you think he can turn it around still?
Yeah, if you're in a season long, you definitely shouldn't trade him because his value is so low. I don't know, you should probably wait for him to have a good game. And it sounds like, based off Kyra's research, that it might be this week. At 4,800, yeah, it's no risk. I mean, you got guys around that price, like the guy I'm going to talk about, James White. James White is a great floor play, but CEH, all he really needs to do is fall into the end zone. You hope that they'll pass him the ball. It just doesn't look like that's what Patrick Mahomes wants to do.
3 targets in the season.
And really, it really just comes down to what Mahomes wants to do, because he can do whatever he wants. And if the option is to dump it down to your running back and let him do the work, or do it yourself, I mean, I think he's just the best player in the league. So we have to understand that, like, the Chiefs running back isn't necessarily what we think it is anymore.
Exactly.
And it's been that way kind of for a longer period of time than we think. We still think about the Andy Reid running back. We still think about that. It's not the same, because Patrick Mahomes has broken anything that Andy Reid necessarily wants to do. So I'm still good playing him this week. I think that he's going to be lowly owned, or low exposure rate. So you can play it because of that to differentiate yourself.
Absolutely. We're going to keep throwing that word at Kyra. I would throw out.
Can't keep doing that to me. I mean, I'm just looking here at the running backs in his price range. It's like, would you rather play Jeremy McNichols, Ronald Jones?
Exactly.
Are they the same price?
Devontae, 4,800. Jeremy McNichols,
oh my God.
Ronald Jones, Sony Michel against Tampa Bay. No freaking.
Now
way.
I kind of feel bad about what I was going to say, because I know kind of the goal. I mostly play GPPs. I don't typically play a ton of head-to-head, and I know the goal is to look for surprise low rostership guys. I have built a ton of lineups around CEH and the guy you're about to tell us about, Steven. I've started a ton of lineups with those 2 running backs. So walk me through your deep sea dive, but now I might have to reconsider how many I have CEH in.
Yeah, I mean, God, CEH the same price as Jeremy McNichols.
Maybe
what
people
is
just
happening?
won't scroll down that far and they won't notice.
Yeah, really.
They might just think he's playing on Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for at this point. I'm going to use the Men in Black thing to erase people's memories on the show. But no, we want to make you guys money. Steven, talk to me about your guy.
Yeah, Javonte Williams. I think the breakout's coming, and look, the Broncos look good on offense, and they're playing a really bad Jets team. I think that Javonte is going to be used a little bit more this week. We're seeing it's a pretty much dead even split. Melvin Gordon does get a lot of the receiving work because he is, I think, better in that role. But Javonte looks great. His yards per carry are awesome. And I think his touches are only going to increase. So this is the week. Get ahead of it.
I was going to say, especially you've already mentioned a couple of key facts I want to throw out about Javonte. He may not be this cheap again. And if they are doing an even split, they're going to move that split towards the rookie, not the older guy, if this game ends up being a blowout, which it very well might be. Before we move on to wide receivers, we have a running back question. And believe me, this guy needs as much fantasy help as he can get. So Josh Hudson, our fearless leader in the chat with us, wants to know your guys' thoughts on Joe Mixon this week going against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, historically, a very good defense against running backs, but a lot of injuries right now. So, Steven, talk to me about Joe Mixon a little bit.
Yeah, I'm good with playing Joe Mixon. I mean, I think it is sexier to play other teams because of the matchup, but Joe Mixon's just out there for, all of the running back snaps. He gets all of the running back touches. So the volume alone can make it a great day as long as he gets touchdowns. So it really just depends. I mean, if he has a great day, if he, just can get into the end zone once with the volume that he's getting, all of a sudden, not a lot of people are going to have exposure to Joe Mixon this week. So I like Joe Mixon actually in this spot.
Kyra, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's asking this question as DFS or if he's asking, against me in our league. So, I don't know if I can answer this, but
arbitrage.
but if it is a DFS question, I do like Joe Mixon this week because of what he said. He is getting a ton of the snaps. He's the guy. You don't have to worry about Joe Bernard anymore to take away from Joe Mixon. He's it. I know that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a hard matchup, but they do have a banged up secondary right now, and I don't think a lot of people want to pick Joe Mixon this week with the matchup, so he'd be low owned, and that's nice.
And real quick, I just got the sleeper notification that T. Higgins is likely to sit out. So another reason that Joe Mixon might be more valuable.
Yeah, might be more involved in the pass game.
That hurts my redraft rosters quite a bit. We're going to jump over to wide receiver, and we just started this whole chalk dust, or I like Kira's naming of it, chalk burn segment this week. When I saw the two names you guys listed, it made me wonder why the previous segments didn't work, because I would have put these guys on here and the segment would have sucked. So, Kyra, walk me through why Tyreek Hill might burn some people this week.
Tyreek Hill might burn me by saying this, to be totally honest with you. I seriously hate to even pick someone this week because all the matchups are great. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great wide receiver matchups, but this is a tough matchup for Tyreek Hill. The Chargers defense, they're not no slouch. I mean, I can't feel entirely confident paying up for Tyreek at the highest wide receiver price when I just like other better, cheaper options. I just don't have much to say about it other than they might shut him down. Just the way that we saw the Ravens do it last week, I don't see why the Chargers can't take notes from that playbook, you know what I mean, and try to shut down Tyreek. I mean, they almost ended up winning the game last week, the Ravens. So, again, I hate to say it. I hate to go against Tyreek Hill. He can also easily go balls to the walls in this game. But at 8,400, I'm just good looking elsewhere.
Yep, we had talked about this a little before the show. I think if you're looking for something to watch this week, it's going to be interesting to see. You have to think the Chargers are going to try to copy what the Ravens did. Is Kansas City going to be happy throwing the ball elsewhere when it resulted in a loss last week? So, yeah, there's going to be some big decisions to be made there. And Steven, equally heartbreaking, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the matchup. I think the matchup's okay. The Washington hasn't started off great on defense, but what I'm seeing with the Bills, they aren't necessarily leaning on Diggs like they were. So 2 straight games, sub 70 yards for Stephon Diggs. Just look at all the players around Diggs, and I can see a way that these guys are outscoring him. Even cheaper guys like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, these kind of guys, Chris Godwin with AB out, like those kind of guys I'm looking at as I'd rather pay down instead of pay up for Stephon Diggs this week.
And it seems like you guys are both very budget conscious when it comes to this. And I think for those who are looking to start dabbling in DFS, if you're watching the show, where you're always going to hear people talk about how deep wide receiver is, it kind of plays that same way when you slide into DFS because there's so many options that are cheaper who could end up putting up the same amount of points. Kyra, let's talk about your favorite option that costs significantly less than Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, significantly less. We've got, of course, I cheat a little bit.
I think this might be your second, possibly third week in a row naming both of these guys. But we'll talk about that after the show.
I just can't freaking stop, man. They're using it. I love them. I love Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I can't help but love them. I mean, the Chargers have almost changed the way that they play on their offense. They've kind of gotten away from the run. They're passing a lot more. Their pass-to-run ratio is a 66.6 to a 33.3. So they're passing a lot more than they would normally be last year with Anthony Lynn. Dude, Herbert is due. I'm sorry. 1 touchdown each week with like over 300 yards. Come on. You know what I mean? It's coming. The blow up is coming. They're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't have a great secondary. Aside from this even being a high over-under, the Chargers are just loving throwing the ball, dude. I can't get away from picking Keenan Allen or Mike Williams at this. Mike Williams is just like an insane freaking discount right now. He's leading the Chargers in targets, receptions. He has Herbert's only 2 touchdowns. I mean, and not only are they getting targets, I mean, this is double-digit targets for both of these guys. They're high upside. They're just mid-priced players. I don't understand how they aren't in the high, as one of them aren't in the higher tier at this point. They're going to blow up, and this is the week that it's going to happen. I love the duo. Stack them both in your lineups. I don't care. It's breakout week.
I love it. I saw a stat on Twitter today, and I wish I could remember who tweeted it, but I think Keenan Allen is the only player with 20-plus targets who hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. Yeah, literally.
I say, you ever get that feeling when someone just due? You know what I mean? I feel like the Chargers offense is due for an explosion.
There you go. A guy who's already found the end zone once this year, Calvin Ridley, Steven.
Yeah, Kyra, I love that call with Keenan Allen. I mean, I think a guy who could be priced a lot higher if things went a little differently is Calvin Ridley. 7,000 on DraftKings. That's a low price for Ridley. I think this week the exposure rate is going to be very low. I think there are a lot of sexy options here. People want to attack the Vikings-Seahawks game and a couple of these really good matchups. I'm not scared of Adoree Jackson or Logan Ryan when it comes to Calvin Ridley. He is an elite route runner, and he's getting a lot of volume right now. If the touchdowns go his way, he could blow up, and everyone faded him because I think people are like not looking at Ridley as like one of the elite options based on the price point. So I think he's still there. I mean, yes, he has disappointed, and yes, he could put up a Stephon Diggs-like stat line, or he could blow up, and no one had him rostered.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you've brought up is the touchdowns could be there. The Giants are averaging a touchdown allowed per game, and the Falcons have nobody else at wide receiver. It's looking like Russell Gage might not play this game, so it's a very interesting game. Let's just dive down now, Steven. Why don't you give me your favorite low-dollar play? I'm going to be upfront with both you guys. I don't like either of your low-dollar plays this week, but the good news is, since you're telling people to avoid Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs, they don't have to dive this low at wide receiver. But talk to me about your guys.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, KJ Osborne, I mean, it looks like that there's a breakout happening. If, after 2 weeks, all of a sudden they're just not going to use KJ Osborne and he just disappears, that would be shocking to me. Again, we're talking about this game. The Vikings can't seem to stop anybody on defense, so they're lined up in 3 wide receiver personnel often, and everyone's getting some love right now. So KJ Osborne, in a PPR setting, I think he's very safe. He gives you a nice floor so you can spend up at other places.
Yeah, and it may just be my bias of looking at the Vikings as a non-3 wide receiver team, and it's been pointed out many times they're running a lot more 3 wide receiver this year, but I'm waiting for them to burn everybody. I'm just not bought in yet.
It feels like the matchup, maybe if they can get established on defense, maybe if they can run the ball a little bit more, then you would see more 12 personnel. But it seems like when this is happening and they're in this kind of like fast-paced offense situation, they're getting 3 receivers out there.
Yeah, I knew Josh would thoroughly adore, and he's in the chat talking about it. Josh put me on to KJ Osborne. I was not big on him. Josh had him ranked significantly higher, and maybe I just don't want Josh to be right. Regardless, I'm against KJ Osborne, and I'm not against Kyra's pick as a player. I like him as a player. I don't think this is the week for it, but talk to me about him.
Right. I mean, change is hard to accept. I get, them running those 3 wide receiver sets is just hard to get with. I get it. But anyway, my deep sea dive this week is going to be Darnell Mooney. What catches my eye is 15 targets over the last 2 weeks, and he's only $4,300 on DraftKings with the stud quarterback change. Yeah, hello, ceiling, where are you at? Because we have not found it yet. He had a 34.8 target share in week 2. Fields had eyes for Mooney. I think he has a substantial upside for a wide receiver price so low and a wide receiver dead zone. I mean, I'm looking at it right here. At 40, what is he? 40. Sorry, I'm looking down. 4,300. He's at 4,300. He's wedged in between guys. I mean, there's a dead zone of people that are just totally hurt here. So it's either you pick Russell Gage, Laviska Shenault, Traquan Smith, T.Y. Hilton, Jamison Crowder, A.J. Green, Emmanuel Sanders, Rashard Higgins, Demarcus Robinson, or Darnell Mooney, who has 15 targets over the last 2 weeks. I'm feeling pretty good paying down at wide receiver for somebody like Darnell Mooney. I like I said, I fully expect Justin Fields to ball out in his start.
And I think that's where you and I fundamentally disagree. I think Fields, I'm going to say something I'm probably going to regret saying, and I'll be happy being wrong because I'm an Ohio State guy. I think Fields is going to play scared this week. I think Cole Kmet is my stream of the week at tight end. I think they are going to lean and play the middle of the field. I don't think he's going to have the courage to throw a lot of balls to Darnell Mooney, and I think the Browns defense could do a good job bottling him up. So that's where we fundamentally disagree. Steven, do you have a take on Darnell Mooney at all? I know that's an unprepared question, but
no, I love that call. I mean, Darnell Mooney, we saw it. We literally just saw it. Justin Fields looked, I'm not gonna say he looked great. I'm not gonna say he looked great. I'm not gonna say he looked good, but he did try to get the ball to Darnell Mooney, and that is something that you have to, just believe in and say, okay, look, he is going to do that again. Darnell Mooney's out there a lot. He's going to have a lot of opportunity. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in your DFS lineups. I'm not saying that he has to be in he's chalky, but if you're going for a low, like if you wanted to pay up from a KJ Osborne to go for a Darnell Mooney, I think that's perfectly fine. But then you got guys around there like Emmanuel Sanders, where Mooney just makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm all for it.
People aren't really necessarily jumping on that Cleveland-Chicago game either. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. So I could see Darnell Mooney being really low-owned. If he gets you a touchdown, if he gets you a big game, that's huge in tournaments.
So what you're saying, Kyra, is today's show is sponsored by differentiation.
It is the word. I don't even know if I could say it again.
Guys, we're flying through, but good info coming out. We're going to just keep moving along. We're going to jump over to tight end. You guys know the segments by now. So we're going to talk about some chalk burn, a chalk tight end who could end up burning you. Kyra, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be on the opposite side of another chalk burn Tom Brady. It's Robin Kraus. Oh, my God.
We got you all flustered with these multi-syllable words.
I should get this name right.
I was going to say, with your last name, I don't think you're allowed to get this name right.
Last name. Like, this is where I live and die. My last name is Wiaterowski. If I can't say Gronkowski, But anyways, I digress. Again, Gronk himself has had 2 buttersoft defensive matchups over the last 2 weeks, and he's acquired most of his fantasy points, honestly, on scoring freaking touchdowns. He's scored 2 touchdowns each of the past 2 weeks. I'll be shook if he continues to get 2 touchdowns on a weekly basis. I think this is the week that Tampa gets just hit in the mouth a little bit by a really good defense. They haven't had that yet happen to them. Like I said, pressure on Tom. I don't know. It's his kryptonite. It's where he tends to fall apart a little bit. Obviously, I could always eat my words here, but Gronk should come back down to earth eventually. It could easily be in this game. The price doesn't really kill you. I mean, it's at 5,500. It's not high like a Travis Kelce or something like that. But I just rather pay down in nearly the same range for somebody like who we're going to probably be talking about next, and also like a TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
They're just much cheaper. I mean, they're $200 to $600 cheaper, so I would like to avoid Gronk. I can't keep chasing touchdowns. I'm not the girl to do it, so I'm good on Gronk for this week.
I love that. I gave that same advice in redraft is don't chase last week's touchdowns because you just don't know. Stephen, you're breaking my heart here. Talk to me about Darren Waller.
I will, but can I differentiate first?
Please.
Oh, yeah.
I'm differentiating on Gronk.
Differentiation here.
Yeah. Well, I realized when Ryan brought it up, I was like, oh, wait, we're just agreeing on everything. So I was like, oh, differentiate.
Yes.
So I really like Rob Gronkowski this week. He was going to be one of my favorites. And so we got AB, who's probably not going to play. So that's one thing.
Out with COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, that happened. That happened before I think I even put that in there. But you know what? I still am sticking to my guns.
Keep going.
and I feel it. But, I'm just saying, I think that, if we didn't chase Gronkowski's touchdowns last week, we would have missed out because he did it twice. So it's like, when do we start believing here with Gronk? They're just going to keep doing it. I mean, Brady and Gronk is a great connection without the touchdowns in week 1. He gave you 8 for 90. So it would have been great for a tight end, especially at 5,500. So if he can give you 6 for 70 and no touchdowns, that's still a pretty good week at 5,500.
And that's almost exactly what I had him projected at until the AB went out. And then I gave him a touchdown and he shot up my rankings real quick. So before we move on, we have a little bit of time to kill. And there's been an interesting discussion. We just talked about it a little bit on Wednesday. I've talked about it with people on Twitter. You guys have brought up the 2 names that you would argue about this. Travis Kelce is the T1 in redraft, and you guys both know your redraft. Is Gronk the TE2 right now? Are you still going on Waller after what he did in week 1? If you're ranking them in a week, in any given week, who should be the second tight end in a ranking?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think I could ever the amount of targets and the opportunities that Waller gets, I think I have to put him at 2. The reason why I didn't pick, I saw that he picked Waller. I can't pick Travis Kelce. I freaking banned
nobody's
from,
ever going to do
Twitter.
That.
You know what I mean? I'd never be allowed back on in this space. That's can't be that stupid to think that Travis Kelce was a bad option. But I mean, if I'm ranking them, I could put Gronk at 3, no doubt about it. But I won't put him above Waller.
Okay, Steven?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think I would put Hawkinson 3 in most cases, and then Gronk either 4 or 5, 5 mostly, with Kittle still being there.
Okay, and then this is my next question because you didn't mention his name yet, and it's shocking because if you're talking about tight ends, don't we have to talk about Kyle Pitts? Didn't we all sign some sort of fantasy football agreement?
Hey, I have Kyle Pitts in here.
But I had a follow. Well, I just meant, and we're going to get to that. But I had a follower ask me this week: would you trade away Gronk in a redraft league to acquire Kyle Pitts? Straight up.
Wow. Oh man. I mean, that's a tough question.
You would hold on to Gronk?
Yeah, I don't know that I would.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
I don't know if it's just the bias in me of thinking rookies don't always have great, phenomenal seasons to start their careers out as tight ends. So it's not that I hate Kyle Pitts. I think he's going to have some really good games, but
I think
it's going to go against what I said, but Tom Brady has eyes for Gronk too. He looks for him up the middle all the freaking time, especially in the red zone. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily what Matt Ryan does in comparison. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a tough trade. I'd have to sit and look at that all night long and think about it.
I think for me, it comes down to the quarterback. It really does. And I was all about Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley because what I believe they were going to do is what they are doing, which is a poor man's Chiefs, where the first target is the receiver, and then the 1B is the tight end, or the 1A, whichever flips back and forth. So that's what they are doing.
Right.
But Matt Ryan, I think we are really seeing a regression here. And who are you going to trust right now? Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay offense that gets to the red zone 5 times a game, or trust the arm of Matt Ryan right now. So it comes down to that for me. I want that connection to the Tampa Bay offense, and I want Gronk because that touchdown upside is real every week.
I feel like I might have buried myself here. I've asked this question now on 2 shows, and everybody but me said no. And I said yes because, again, it was the whole chasing points thing. I said you may have missed because I apologize. He was trading away Kyle Pitts, but the question still remains the same. I said you're acquiring Gronk when he may have already had his best 2 weeks, but you haven't seen Pitts' best 2 weeks yet. So that was just my theory in there, but I'm starting to feel like I might be wrong. All this Kyle Pitts talk, Kyra, he's your favorite play of the week. Talk to me about Kyle Pitts.
Okay, so I feel like we do talk about Kyle Pitts a lot in DFS because he still is a value. He's one of those.
The price hasn't caught up yet. Exactly.
Yeah, he's one of those situations where you're just waiting for the breakout to happen. I felt kind of like that with Najee. I know he didn't really have a breakout, but he had a better game that bumped up his price. They keep these rookies low until they have that situation. And with the talent and upside of Pitts, I mean, we're just waiting for it. So he's super involved in this offense, especially this week. We're down a guy. We're down Russell Gage already. So
yeah.
I mean, you got to realize Pitts has ran 71 routes, second most routes on Atlanta's offense. He's had 14 targets over the last 2 weeks. Pitts is running 46% out of the slot, 26% out wide. He's being used as a wide receiver 72% of the time. He should see an uptick with no Gage then in that case. You know what I mean? So all those numbers are probably going to bump up, giving him more opportunities.
Yeah.
Fire him up against the Giants. They're giving up the 4th most points per game through the 2 weeks to the tight end position. I know the sample size is small. I get it. You know what I mean? But I mean, they didn't play anyone special over the last 2 weeks where I think that those numbers are fudged. You know what I mean? So I could see Kyle Pitts having himself a good day here. They're going to need him out there. So
with Pitts likely to play wide receiver, does that make Hayden Hurst a possible play as well with the way the Giants give up points to tight ends?
Yeah, it's a good punt option. I'm sure he's down price low. If I
can imagine he's free-ish.
Just giving him away at this point.
He's got to be down here. Oh yeah, he's 2,800 for sure.
That's a good call.
Totally give me that at a punt price.
Absolutely. And then Steven, talk to me about your favorite.
Yeah, I love the Kyle Pitts call, and then I love pairing him with Saquon right there to get that correlation going. So yeah, my favorite player, I mean, it's pretty much a toss-up, is Hawkinson. He's like a square that you could just plug in right now, and you know what you're going to get. So, I mean, it's easy. It shouldn't be that hard. At 5,200, I'd rather spend that than pay up for Darren Waller. And then if, with going back to Waller, I would just rather pay up for Kelsey. So it makes sense just to go Hawkinson. 5,200, you can still build a really good lineup with that.
Yeah, they're so pricing Hawkinson like he's not one of these top 3 dudes. Like they're just being silly with that.
That's what I was going to point out. Is you both avoided Travis Kelsey. I believe he's main slate this week. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He is. Yeah, okay. We both avoided him. I just can't suggest not to play the best tight end.
And that's what I love is that you guys both avoided him where we talked about the paying up versus the not paying up. But TJ Hawkinson right now is putting up Kelsey-esque numbers, and he's so much significantly cheaper.
Yeah, I'm finding myself flexing Kelsey a lot this week. I don't usually do that, but I am doing
all the money you have left at the end.
Yeah, exactly. I'm putting Andrews. I'm doing a lot of Lamar and Andrews with Kelsey at my flex.
It's a very interesting play, and that might not be something people are thinking about is sliding Kelsey into their flex. So again, differentiation, the word of the day. Yes, deep sea dive. Steven, walk me through your guy because I like him a lot this week as well.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to talk about Austin Hooper, and I think we already mentioned it. Jarvis is out, so they're going to need some play, some receptions other places. I was hoping I just don't give up on David Njoku for some reason. I don't know why. I actually started him in somewhere last week, but Austin Hooper really is the guy who's going to get the receptions, the underneath stuff now that Jarvis isn't there. So I think you're going to get an uptick in targets with Hooper and Hunt this week. I think Odell is going to play, but still it looks like Hooper would probably be the second option as far as targets go.
Yep. I'm going to throw a couple of quick fire takes out. First of all, Odell today, when asked about playing, said, "We'll see." And Joe Bryant, leader over at Football Guys, pointed out expertly, when your parents tell you "we'll see," that's no, people.
That's not wrong. That's a good take.
And then my other take on this is, because I do love Hooper, because I think Hooper is going to play the more traditional tight end role. I look for David Njoku to play slot wide receiver for the Browns this week. He was playing a lot of third down plays for the Browns in the preseason. They haven't had to use him much there yet, but I think with no Jarvis Landry and no wide receiver on this team really created to man the slot without Landry there, even if Odell plays, Odell's going to play on the outside. Watch for David Njoku as probably the cheapest tight end on the week who could actually do something this week. I like Hooper more, to be very clear, because I agree with you. His dominating snap percentage, he's equal on targets, but last game that was a big bump up. Hooper's great, but watch David Njoku as a guy who you're not expecting to have a good week who could surprise you. And Kyra, I was low on this guy last week, but it's a 1 week thing because I love him this week. Walk me through your deep sea dive at tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton on Gerald Everett here because, hey, this is like a punt for me. He's only at punt for 3,000, Alex. Hey. But there's some encouraging positives for Everett. On one of them being that he logged 80% of the offensive snaps last week, and that's opposed to Will Dissly's 48%. I think last week we were still concerned about that split between him and Will Dissly. Seems that he's pulling ahead. Targets are obviously still majority owned by Metcalf and Lockett, but the Vikings give up a shit ton of passing yards and touchdowns, guys. I mean, their defense is just a continuation of last year. bad. So
Yeah.
hopefully Everett is able to snag you one this week, get you a touchdown, and for the discounted price, I mean, 3,000 is low. To be involved in your offense on the Seahawks on a game where they could easily score a ton of points, I'm cool with Gerald Everett.
Yeah, and if you want sort of a discount stack, this goes back to Steven's favorite play at quarterback, combining Russell Wilson with Gerald Everett, where you then can maybe not have to pay up for two expensive wide receivers in TK and Tyler Lockett. I'm not saying to avoid those guys, but this, again, could be a different kind of lineup. Everybody has to start a defense, so we're going to end our show with defense. Explain if you want to explain, but for the most part, give me a high dollar play if someone has a little bit too much money left over, or a low dollar play if they're just looking to get somebody cheap. Kyra, you have way too many people, so we're going to go to you last. I'm going to let Steven do his first.
Patriots for a high, play your defense against Jameis Winston when you can.
Jameis.
For my low, I really like Kyra's, so I was going to pick that one, but I can't because she's going to talk about it.
Yeah, I picked a couple, so I made it hard for you. I'm so sorry.
So my low is, oh man, what did I type here? It is Washington. They pressured the quarterback a lot, and then Josh Allen is pressured a lot. So a lot of the sacks in that game could lead to turnovers.
I like it. Kyra, I take your pick. Let's hear them.
Okay. So, hey, I've got a good thing. So my high money pick is obviously going to be the Broncos versus the Jets. They are the highest money pick, but not without good reason. You know, the Denver Broncos have been fantastic, and the Jets, needless to say, have been the Jets. So that's neither here nor there. That's a pretty easy pick. My couple low money plays, if there's a couple situational things going on. So if Derek Carr is out, I really like the Miami Dolphins defense. I might even like them anyways. I think they're super underrated, and I'm probably like one of the worst people to say this right now, but I think Derek Carr is a little overrated. But anyways, if not, I do like the Titans versus the Colts this week. The Titans defense is bad, and I get that, and it's probably scary for you to even want to put them in your lineup. But I think Jacob Eason and Brett Hundley is worse. So I'm totally cool. I mean, he came right in the game and immediately threw an interception, I'm pretty sure. So I don't mind the Titans defense to kind of punt on the play and then have them in. But one of my favorites plays of the week is going to be at a low price, the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, the Bengals defense also has been a little bit underrated thus far. And the Steelers offense, I think it's just not the same offense that we're used to seeing them. And I think people are really afraid of them. Big Ben's just not the same. He's got a torn pec right now. That offense line is just absolute garbage. It's killing my Najee Harris shares. It's freaking me out. But regardless, I really like the Cincinnati Bengals as a pay down option this week.
So just to run that down. The Dolphins, if Derek Carr is out. If Derek Carr plays, pivot to the Titans if Carson Wentz is out. But if Wentz and Carr play, go to the Bengals versus the Steelers.
Honestly, I probably go to the Bengals first regardless. But I really like the Bengals this week, and I think that a lot of people are still going to be off of them. I don't know that that's going to be a popular play. I think a lot of people are going to go to places like, hey, Tua's out, I'm taking the Raiders. Hey, Wentz is out, I'm taking the Titans. So I don't mind the Bengals as that play low, play down option.
I like it. Guys, we did it. We finished the show under time, first and foremost. So thank you both. The information was great, and we got there where we needed to get there.
Awesome.
Steven, thank you so much for joining us. Please remind everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, of course. I rank defenses once a week over at guillotineleagues.com. The Bengals, I think in the first time in my 3 years at Guillotine Leagues, made my top 15 this week. So there you go. I do one article a week over at Team Rise or Fall, do my Fantasy Friday. It's risers or fallers on the given week. So go over there and check it out. That'll be out tomorrow. And then, of course, the Hot Take podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we do a Friday night stream. This year, we're sponsored by Thrive Fantasy. Doing a lot of props this year. We're trying to win you guys some money. So get on over there and let's get it, man. Football's here. We're in full season mode right now.
Oh yeah. Anybody watching this, they are guaranteed to love money. I mean, you do not watch DFS and Chill and not plan on making yourself some money. So go over there and support our guy Steven.
I love it.
Of course, you can find me on Twitter, FantasyFFKira. I'll be happy to answer any questions or anything you got going on over there. Of course, my article is going to be coming out on Saturday morning to let you know a couple more value plays that we got going on other than what you see on the show.
There you go. Before you leave our YouTube channel, stay tuned. The first 2021 episode of Club Dynasty is coming on right after us at 7 o'clock. Josh Hudson, who is the founder of Club Fantasy, our dynasty writer, Zach Smith, and our other dynasty writer, Andrew Metcalf, are all going to be breaking down some of the dynasty value changes that have taken place thus far in 2021. Andrew just wrote a great article about the 2019 running backs, and I think that'll be a big topic on the show. Make sure you hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We're doing things all the week. We also work with Thrive. We have streams of the week. We have Kyra on Thursday nights. We have our regular show on Wednesdays. There's plenty of us stuff to watch. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you're looking for more DFS goodness, this Saturday we'll have Kyra's Cash Grabs, our most popular article, and Oklahoma Doug, our other DFS writer who normally writes on Thursdays. He's going to actually give us an Oh Captain, My Captain for the entire weekend slate. That's going to drop Saturday as well. So that is everything, guys. Again, thank you, Steven. Thank you, Kyra. Good luck tonight and good luck this weekend, everybody. Have a great night.
Everybody, good luck.